Chapter 7.2 Isosceles and Equilateral Triangles, Triángulos isósceles y equiláteros. Okay, an isosceles triangle is a triangle with at least two congruent sides. So as you see in this triangle right here, the left and the right sides are congruent. The congruent sides are called the legs of the triangle. The angle that's formed by the legs is the vertex angle. So the angle that's formed by the two legs is the vertex angle. The side opposite the vertex angle is the base. So this side right here is the base, and these two angles are the base angles. Alright, so the main thing to remember is that an isosceles triangle has two sides that are congruent, and the other side is called the base, and these are the base angles. Un triángulo isósceles es un triángulo que tiene al menos dos lados congruentes. Okay, así que tiene dos lados congruentes y el otro lado se le llama la base y estos son los ángulos de la base. So the isosceles triangle theorem says that if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the two angles opposite the sides are congruent. So if two sides are congruent, then their two angles on the opposite of those sides also got to be congruent. And the converse is when you just switch them around, if you remember from previous lessons. So again, if the isosceles triangle theorem says that if two sides are congruent, then their two opposite angles got to be congruent. The converse is that if a triangle has two angles that are congruent, then their two sides got to be congruent. Okay, en español, el teorema de un triángulo isósceles. Si dos lados de un triángulo son congruentes, entonces los dos ángulos opuestos a esos lados también son congruentes. Y el inverso sería que si dos ángulos son congruentes, entonces los dos lados opuestos a esos ángulos tienen que ser congruentes. Let's look at some example problems. They're pretty simple. Okay, so in number 4, we got to find the measure of angle A. Alright, we got to find the measure of angle A. En el número 4 tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulo A. So as you can see, this is an isosceles triangle because this side is congruent to this side. Okay, estos dos lados son congruentes, así que el triángulo es isosceles. If this angle is 46 degrees, that means this angle is also going to be 46 degrees because those are the two base angles. Si este ángulo es 46 grados, este también tiene que ser 46. Alright, now we know that when you add up all the angles, it has to equal 180. So if you just add up 46 or multiply it times 2, alright, that'll be 92 degrees. So if we just subtract 180 minus 92 degrees, that'll give us 88 degrees. And that's how much the vertex angle, angle A, has to be 88 degrees. Again, if this is 46 degrees, this one is also 46 degrees. If you subtract both of these numbers from 180, that'll give you the angle that's missing, which is angle A, and the measure of angle A is 88 degrees. Okay, recuerden que la suma de los ángulos internos de un triángulo siempre es 180, así que si le resto a 180, 46 y 46, que en total es 92, me da el ángulo la medida del ángulo que falta, que sería 88 grados para la medida de ángulo A. Let's look at number 5. Alright, so in number 5, it's an isosceles triangle because this side is congruent to this side, okay? Estos dos lados son congruentes. So that means if this angle is 2x plus 2 degrees, this angle over here is also 2x plus 2 degrees because the base angles are going to be equal. Si este ángulo mide 2x más 2 grados, este también tiene que medir igual porque son los dos ángulos de la base. And remember that when you add them all up, it equals 180. Recuerden que cuando la suma de los ángulos te tiene que dar 180. So let's write that. 2x plus 2. Instead of writing it twice, I'm just going to do this. Plus 3x plus 1 has to equal 180. You could just write it out twice if you want, if you think that'll be easier. I'm going to do the distributive property, la propiedad distributiva. Four x plus 3x is 7x. 4 plus 1 is 5. Now let's subtract 5 from both sides. And you're going to get 175. So 7x equals 175. My last step is to divide 175 by 7. I'm running out of space, so let me do that right here. 175 divided by 7 is going to be 25. So x equals 25. X igual a 25. However, look at the question. The question is, what is the measure of angle R? La pregunta es qué es la medida de ángulo R, así que ahora tengo que sustituir. Now I got to substitute. So I'm going to put the 25 right there. 3 times 25 is 75, and 75 plus 1 is 76 degrees. So the measure of angle R is 76 degrees. There's the work for you. Alright, let's do another one. Look at number 6. We got to find the measure of angle O. Alright, so again, these two sides are, it's an isosceles triangle. These two sides are congruent. So if angle O is 4y minus 15 degrees, angle M also has to be 4y minus 15 degrees. And when you add them all up, it has to equal 180. So 2 times 4y minus 15 plus 7y equals 180. Alright, so I'm going to do the distributive property, la propiedad distributiva, and that's going to give me 8y minus 30 plus 7y equals 180. 8y plus 7y is 15y minus 30 equals 180. Okay, now I'm going to move the minus 30 to the right by adding 30 to both sides. And that's going to give me 210. 15y equals 210. Alright, now I got to divide, so 210 divided by 15. 15 goes into 21 one time. By the way, sorry that came out so crooked. Alright, 1 times 15 is 15. Remainder is 6. Bring down the 0. 15 goes into 60 4 times. Alright, so y equals 14. Y equals 14, but that was not the question. The question was, what is the measure of angle O? Alright, so y equals 14. I'm going to erase everything so I could substitute 14 where the y is. Okay, la pregunta es qué es la medida de ángulo O, así que tengo que sustituir el valor de y donde está y aquí. Así que déjame borrar todo para poner el 14 aquí. So 4 times 14 minus 15. So I'm going to multiply that. That gives me 56. So 56 minus 15. That's going to give you 41. So the measure of angle O is 41 degrees. Alright, let's look at number 7. Number 7, we got to find the measure of angle E. So these are all the same thing. Alright, it's an isosceles triangle, so this side is congruent to this side. That means this angle has to equal this angle right here because they're the two base angles. And when you add them all up, it's got to equal 180. So I'm going to set it up the same way. 2 times 4x plus 1 plus 5x minus 4 has to equal 180. Alright, now I'm going to multiply. I'm going to get 8x plus 2 plus 5x minus 4 equals 180. So 8x plus 5x is 13x. 2 minus 4 is negative 2. Alright, now I'm going to move the minus 2 to the right by adding 2 to both sides. And I'm going to get 182 equals 13x. Now I got to divide 182 by 13. Alright, so 182 divided by 13. 13 goes into 18 one time. 1 times 13 is 13, remainder 5. And 13 goes into 52 4 times. Alright, so x equals 14. So to find the measure of angle E, I got to substitute 14 where x is. So 4 times 14 is going to give me 56. Let me write it out. 4 times 14 plus 1. 4 times 14 is going to give you 56, plus 1 more is 57 degrees. And that's the measure of angle E. 57 degrees is the answer. Alright, moving on. Okay, now we're going to go, this is the second part that we got to go over. We got to go over 2 quick definitions. An equilateral triangle. An equilateral triangle is a triangle with 3 congruent sides. So all 3 sides are equal in an equilateral triangle. And an equiangular triangle, it has the word equal and angle in it. So it's a triangle with 3 congruent angles. So look at the definition here. The equilateral triangle theorem. If a triangle is equilateral, then it is equiangular. And the converse is just the reverse. If a triangle is equiangular, then it is equilateral. To be honest, that's not going to come up a lot, okay? Just make sure you know that in equilateral triangle, all 3 sides are the same and all 3 angles are the same. And the same thing with an equiangular triangle, all right? And just here's a visual representation of what it says here. If all 3 sides are the same, then all 3 angles got to be the same. And if all 3 angles are the same, all 3 sides got to be congruent. If all 3 sides are congruent, all 3 angles are congruent as well. And if all 3 angles are congruent, then all 3 sides are congruent. Ok, así que un triángulo equilátero. Un triángulo con 3 lados congruentes. Es un triángulo equilátero. Y un triángulo equiangular es un triángulo con 3 ángulos congruentes. Si los 3 lados son congruentes, entonces los 3 ángulos tienen que ser congruentes. Y si los 3 ángulos son congruentes, entonces los 3 lados tienen que ser congruentes. Alright, so let's look at our first problem here. Katie is stitching the center inlay onto a banner that she created to represent her new tutorial service. It is an equilateral triangle. That's the important part. It's an equilateral triangle. So that means that all 3 sides are congruent. With the following dimensions in centimeters. What is the length of each side of the triangle? Ok, así que aquí dice que este triángulo es un triángulo equilátero. Así que quieren saber qué es el largo de cada lado del triángulo. Si es un triángulo equilátero, entonces todos los lados son congruentes. Así que este lado es congruente a este lado. Right? If it's an equilateral triangle, all 3 sides are congruent. So that means that this side has to be equal to this side. That's how they set up their problem right here. Eso es lo que escribieron aquí para empezar el problema. Once they solved that equation, they got the value of x. X equals 6. Okay, a la vez que resolvieron esa ecuación, ya saben, cogieron el valor de x y ahora lo único que falta es sustituir el valor de x en cualquier lado que quiera. Okay, lo pueden hacer aquí o aquí. The only thing left is to substitute the value of x in whatever side you prefer. They're all going to give you the same answer. Todos los lados te dan la misma respuesta, que en este caso es 31 centímetros. 31 centimeters when you substitute it. Let's look at a problem that I'll do here from scratch. Okay, so we got to find the measure of angle t. Tenemos que encontrar la medida de ángulo t. Okay, so first of all, it's an isosceles triangle. Okay, es un triángulo isosceles. Okay, because this side is equal to this side is congruent to this side. So that means that this angle is the same as this angle. These are the base angles. Okay, en un triángulo isósceles, estos dos ángulos miden igual. To find the measure of the vertex angle of the triangle, first find the value of x. Okay? Para encontrar la medida del ángulo vertex del triángulo, primero tengo que encontrar el valor de x. So the measure of angle R equals the measure of angle S equals x degrees by the, I'm guessing it's the Isosceles theorem. Isosceles, that's how you spell it. Alright, so the measure of angle R plus the measure of angle S plus the measure of angle T has to equal 180. Alright, so when I add up all the angles, x plus x is 2x plus 3x is 5x. So now x is going to equal 180 divided by 5, which is going to be 36 by the division property, because I divided. So the measure of angle T equals 3x, which equals 3 times 36, which is going to equal 108 degrees. Alright? I left one word out. Isosceles triangle theorem. Close enough. Alright, let's look at these. These are more like what you're going to see on your homework, alright? So look, all three angles are equal. If all three angles are equal, that means that all three sides are congruent, and it's an equilateral triangle. Okay, si los tres ángulos son congruentes, que es lo que nos está diciendo aquí con estas rayitas, eso quiere decir que los tres lados son congruentes y es un triángulo equilátero. Así que este lado es congruente a este lado. Alright, so just set up your problem like this. 5x minus 12 equals 3x minus 4, or vice versa. They both mean the same thing. So let's move 3x to the left by subtracting. Let me move minus 12 to the right by adding. So 2x equals 8. So x equals 8 divided by 2. So x equals 4. And we got to find the length of side DE. So now just substitute the 4 right there. Although if you put it here, it's going to give you the same answer. So when I substitute, 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 12 is 8. So the length of segment DE is 8. Cuando sustituyo el 4, donde está X, lo puedo poner aquí también, me va a dar la misma respuesta. 5 por 4 es 20 y 20 menos 12 me da 8, que es la respuesta. Alright, this is the same exact problem as number 8. Este es el mismo problema que número 8, la misma cosa. Alright, so start off your problem making 10x plus 3 equal to 3x plus 24, because it's an equilateral triangle and all three sides are congruent. So let's move 3x to the left by subtracting, and I'll get 7x. Let's move 3 to the right by subtracting, and I'll get 21. So x equals 21 divided by 7, so x equals 3. So now I gotta substitute. They want me to find side KL, so substitute the 3 right there. Voy a sustituir el número 3. So 3 times 3 plus 24, that's going to be 3 times 3 is 9. 9 plus 24 is 33. So the answer is 33. Alright, now this is the same thing I just did, except now you got fractions. And yes, you have fractions on the homework, and it's good to review fractions because they are going to come up throughout the year, okay? Estos problemas es la misma cosa, pero ahora tienen fracciones. Y es bueno repasar fracciones porque número 1 están en la tarea de hoy y número 2 salen muchas veces durante el año. Alright, so all three angles are equal. That means all three sides are congruent. It's an equilateral triangle, so this side is equal to this side. Los tres ángulos son congruentes, así que los tres lados son congruentes. Así que este lado es congruente a este lado. Y así voy a hacer mi ecuación. Alright, so 3 over 2x plus 4 equals 1 over 5x plus 9. Let me write the x bigger. I didn't mean to make it look like it's on the bottom. You know what? Let me write that better. 3 over 2, the x should be in the middle, plus 4 equals 1 over 5x plus 9. Alright, so let's move 1 over 5x to the left by subtracting to get all the x's on one side. Let me move 4 to the right by subtracting 4. Alright, so 9 minus 4 is 5. Alright, now let's do the fraction. 3 over 2x minus 1 over 5x. It's going to be a number with the x in the back. So look, let me review how to do fractions real quick. And listen, I'm going to go over how to do it, but if you still don't get it because you didn't learn it in middle school like you should have, you need to Google. There's tons of examples online on how to add and subtract fractions, but it's very important. Ok, si yo voy a explicar cómo sumar y restar estas fracciones, pero si todavía no lo entienden, lo pueden buscar por Google. Hay una pila de ejemplos en el internet de cómo sumar y restar fracciones, porque eso es muy importante. Okay, look, you cannot add or subtract fractions if they have different denominators. No se pueden sumar ni restar si tienen denominadores diferentes. So you gotta get the least common multiple of 2 and 5. Tienen que coger el múltiple más chiquito que tienen en común, el 2 y el 5, which in this case is 10. En este caso es 10. So I'm going to change both fractions to equivalent fractions, but since I changed the bottom number from a 2 to a 10, I got to change the top number as well. How am I going to do that? I'm just going to ask myself, 2 times what number gives me 10? 2 times 5 gives me 10. And I got to multiply the top by that same number, 3 times 5. That gives me 15. This fraction equals this fraction, because if I simplify 15 over 10, I'm going to get the fraction 3 over 2. Let's do the same thing on the bottom. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to explain it in Spanish on the bottom, okay? Déjame explicar esta parte de abajo en español. Okay, quiero escribir una fracción equivalente a 1 sobre 5, pero que tenga el 10 abajo. Ok, como cambié el 5 a un 10, tengo que cambiar el número que está arriba también, porque si no, no va a ser equivalente. Así que me voy a preguntar, ¿por cuál número se multiplica 5 para coger 10? Se multiplica 5 por 2 para coger 10. Ahora voy a multiplicar el número de arriba también por ese mismo número, que es 2. Y eso te va a dar un 2 arriba. 2 sobre 10 es una fracción equivalente a 1 sobre 5. Porque si yo simplifico la fracción 2 sobre 10, me va a dar 1 sobre 5. One more thing. Notice that you're multiplying the top and the bottom by the same number. That's kind of like multiplying by 1, because 5 divided by 5 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Basically, when you multiply the top and the bottom by the same number, the relationship stays the same between the numerator and the denominator. Cuando multiplican el número de arriba y el de abajo por el mismo número, eso mantiene la misma relación entre el numerador y el denominador. Okay, now that I got my new fractions with the same denominator, now I can subtract. Okay, ahora que tengo las fracciones nuevas con el mismo denominador, ahora sí puedo restar. The denominator stays the same. You're not going to subtract the denominator. It stays the same. El denominador se mantiene igual. I'm only going to subtract the top numbers, the numerators. Solamente voy a restar los números de arriba, el numerador. 15 minus 2 is 13. 13 over 10. Alright, so when I subtracted this, what I get is 13 over 10x. 13 over 10x equals 5. Alright, now, next step. This is a number in front of a variable. So this is multiplication. So when I move it to the other side, I'm going to do the opposite. No, my bad. You know what? I'm sorry. Let me explain it easier. What I was saying was correct, but there's an easier way to explain it. So let me do it the easier way, which is like this. Please pay attention, because if you listen to me, this makes it a lot easier to understand. And I'll use this throughout the year, okay? Because the other way that I started to explain it, it tends to throw, if you're not good with fractions, it throws a lot of people off, even though it's correct. Alright, so look, the easiest way to explain how to get rid of this fraction is to multiply both sides of the equation. I didn't mean to use that color. Let me change that color. This one. Alright, is to multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal. Multiply both sides of the equation by the reciprocal. That's the easiest way to think about it and to do it. Alright, so if I multiply both sides by the reciprocal, let me just say that in Spanish real quick. La manera más fácil de pensar de cómo mover esta fracción para el otro lado es multiplicar los dos lados de la ecuación por el recíproco de esa fracción. So on the left, this is going to cancel out. Esto se cancela. Because when you multiply it, you're going to get 1. All right, so x is going to equal over here to multiply this. First of all, the whole number, change it to a fraction by putting a 1 on the bottom. Cambien el número entero a una fracción poniéndole un 1 debajo. Now multiply the top times the top and the bottom times the bottom, and you're going to get 50 over 13. And that's your answer, because I cannot simplify that any further. I mean, the only other thing you could do is change it to a decimal. I'll check in a second if the book has it like a decimal, but usually when they give you fractions, they want the answer in fraction form. Okay, ya eso es... Actually, my bad, that's not my answer, because the question was find the length of AB, so now I gotta substitute it. I forgot. Okay, me falta substituir para encontrar el valor de AB. Alright, so I gotta erase all this because I got too much stuff there. X equals 50 over 13. X equals 50 over 13. Let me write that here. X equals 50 over 13. Alright, so now I'm gonna substitute that right here. Okay, ahora voy a sustituir ese valor ahí. So 3 over 2 times 50 over 13. X. I'm sorry, not X. My bad. Plus 4. Alright, look, the quickest way to do it is to simplify. Guys, this is 10th grade, so I'm sorry. Hopefully you know how to simplify this before multiplying, because that's what I'm going to do right now. Alright? Otherwise, I'm going to have huge numbers. 50 divided by 2. I could simplify these two numbers right here by dividing them both by 2. Pero antes de multiplicar, puedo simplificar estos dos números dividiéndolo los dos por 2. Alright, so if I divide them by 2, this will become a 1, and this will become a 25. Now I'm going to multiply them. 3 times 25 is 75. And 1 times 13 is 13. Alright. Now, this 4, in order to be able to add it with this fraction, I'm going to change it to have a 13 on the bottom. Okay. Para poder sumar estas dos fracciones, tengo que cambiar el 4 para que tenga un 13 abajo. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing I'm going to do I did before. To change this fraction to have a 13 on the bottom, you multiply 1 times 13. So multiply the top times 13, and it's going to give you 52. Alright, so 75 over 13 plus 52 over 13 is going to give you 127 over 13. And can I simplify that? Let me think 1 second here. No, I don't think I can. 127 over 13. Alright, so that might be my answer. Let me just check real quick at the answer. Yeah, look, it's right there. 127 over 13. That's the answer, so I was right. Alright, so the answer is 127 over 13. That was fun, huh? Alright. Hopefully you could detect my sarcasm. Hey guys, the only way to get good at fractions is by doing a problem with fractions. Alright? Just like I did right now. Alright? La única manera de ponerse bueno en usar fracciones es haciendo problemas donde se usan fracciones mucho. Alright, let's look at number 11. Alright, so number 11, we got to find the length of segment BC. So again, all three angles are equal. So that means all three sides are equal. So I'm going to make this side equal to this side. Alright, so 5 over 4y minus 1 equals 7 over 3y minus 2. Alright, so let me move 7 over 3y to the left. And I'll move the minus 1 to the right by adding 1 to both sides. So when I do that, I'm going to get, alright, negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. Okay, now over here I got to go through the same process. To add 5 over 4 minus, or to subtract 5 over 4 minus 7 over 3, they got to have the same denominator. The least common multiple of 4 and 3 is 12. Okay. Otra vez, para restarlo, tienen que primero tener el mismo denominador. El múltiple más chiquito de 4 y 3 es 12. So I ask myself, 4 times what gives me 12? 4 times 3 gives me 12. So do the same thing to the top. 5 times 3, which gives you 15. So I got 15 over 12. Let me do this one in Spanish. Me pregunto, 3 por cuánto me da 12, 3 por 4. Así que multipliquen el de arriba también por ese mismo número. 7 por 4 me da 28. And we're subtracting, estamos restando. Alright, so the denominator is going to stay 12. 15 minus 28 is negative 13. And there was a y in the back. So negative 13 over 12y equals negative 1. So again, use my technique. The easiest way to get rid of that fraction is to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of this fraction. La manera más fácil de quitar esta fracción es multiplicando los dos lados por el recíproco de esa fracción. Alright, so this will cancel out. I'll have y equals positive 12 over 13. Positive 12 over 13. But now I gotta substitute it. To find BC, since all three sides are equal, it doesn't matter. You can substitute it into whichever one you want, alright? Ya tengo el valor para y, que es 12 sobre 13. Ahora para encontrar el largo del lado BC, tengo que sustituir ese valor para y en uno de los dos, porque los tres lados son congruentes, así que no importa cuál de los lados lo hace. So, y equals 12 over 13. And 12 over 13, let me put it in this one, I guess. 5 over 4 times 12 over 13 minus 1. So I multiply numerator times the numerator. Well, actually, my bad. Let me simplify it first, just like I did last time. The 12 and the 4 could be simplified by dividing them both by 4 to make it smaller. El 12 y 4 se pueden simplificar antes de multiplicar para hacerlo más chiquito. Así que los dos se pueden dividir por 4. If I divide 4 by 4, I get 1. 12 divided by 4, I get 3. So when I multiply those, I'm going to get 15 over 13 minus. Okay, let me show you a little trick here. When you have when you have a 1 and I gotta add or subtract it with a fraction, it's very simple to change it to a fraction. Just change it to whatever number you have in the denominator here. What I mean is this. Whatever number you have in the denominator, put it on the top and on the bottom. Because 13 divided by 13 equals 1. Alright, so it's equivalent. And now it has the same denominator. Okay, para cambiar este 1 entero a una fracción, simplemente, bueno, en esta situación donde estoy sumando o restando con esta fracción, tengo que simplemente pueden coger el denominador y ponerlo arriba y abajo. Porque 13 dividido por 13 me da 1. Y ahora tienen los dos el mismo denominador y me permiten restar las fracciones. So that's going to give you 2 over 13. And that is the answer, 2 over 13. Fun with fractions. Alright, so, let me erase that. Okay, this is an easy question that's on your homework where you got to fill in the blank. Esto está en la tarea y es fácil. Complete the diagram to show the cause and effect of the theorems covered in the lesson. Explain why the arrows show the direction going both ways. Forget about the explain part. That's not in the homework, I don't think. But how many sides are congruent? For an isosceles triangle, how many sides got to be congruent? Para un triángulo isósceles, ¿cuántos lados tienen que ser congruentes? 2. And if 2 sides are congruent in an isosceles triangle, that means 2 angles are congruent. Si 2 lados son congruentes, entonces los 2 ángulos son congruentes. And the other one is if 3 sides are congruent, that means you have an equilateral triangle. And all angles are congruent, okay? Si 3 lados son congruentes, entonces tienen un triángulo equilátero y todos los ángulos son congruentes. Oh, you know what? I put the wrong answer there. I thought they wanted the number 2, but they wanted the word base. Okay, puse la respuesta incorrecta aquí. Creía que querían saber cuántos ángulos, que serían 2 ángulos, pero quieren la palabra base. Si 2 lados son congruentes, entonces los ángulos de las bases van a ser congruentes. Es un triángulo isósceles. Esto está en la tarea, así que recuerden esto para la tarea. Hey, this is on your homework, so remember this answer on your homework. Alright, this is a proof that's on your homework. prove that angle B is congruent to angle C, given that point M is the midpoint of BC. Okay, esto está en la tarea, esta prueba. Quieren que tenemos que comprobar que ángulo B es congruente a ángulo C si te dicen que el punto M es el punto en el medio de segmento BC. So as usual, they put the given point M is the midpoint of BC. All right, they put that first. Then BM is congruent to MC because that's the definition of a midpoint. If this is in the middle, this segment has to equal this segment. Now AB is congruent to AC, and that's given from the picture, from the diagram. Okay, esto es dado por el diagrama que te están dando. Then AM is congruent to AM because of the reflexive property. Triangle AMB is congruent to triangle AMC because all three sides are congruent. If they already proved that BM is congruent to MC, and this side is congruent in both triangles because it's the same side, and it was given that this side is equal to this side, then all three sides are equal because of the SSS triangle congruence. Si ya comprobaron que este lado es congruente a este lado, el lado en el medio los dos lo tienen en común, así que es congruente. Y el lado aquí es congruente a este lado porque te lo están dando en el diagrama. Entonces los dos triángulos son congruentes por el teorema lado, lado, lado. And once you prove that the two triangles are congruent, their corresponding parts are congruent. Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So that's how angle B is congruent to angle C. A la vez que ya comprobaron que los dos triángulos son congruentes, entonces las partes que corresponden en triángulos congruentes tienen que ser congruentes. Alright, moving on. This is the last one that we got to go over today. Este es el último ejemplo para hoy. And this is on your homework. Esto también está en la tarea. Given that triangle ABC is an isosceles triangle. Triangle ABC is isosceles. And segment AD and segment CD are angle bisectors. Okay, so just before I move on, let me read that again. AD is an angle bisector. That means that this angle is going to equal this angle right here. And CD is an angle bisector, which means that, let me put two lines. This angle equals this angle over here. They might be the same, but I don't know that yet. So I'm just putting, that's why I put this one with two lines, alright? Aquí dice que segmento AD y segmento CD son bisectores de estos ángulos. Así que este ángulo es congruente a este ángulo y este ángulo es congruente a este ángulo. A lo mejor también son congruentes todos estos dos a estos dos. Pero como no estoy seguro todavía, lo dejé así. Actually, I do know that they're going to be congruent because it says here that it's an isosceles triangle. Okay, sí sé que los dos ángulos van a ser congruentes, ángulo BAC y ángulo BCA, porque son triángulos isósceles. Alright, so what is the measure of angle ADC? What is the measure of this angle right here? ¿Cuál es la medida de ángulo ADC? Alright, so look. This is how you should look at it. First of all, let me try drawing that again. What I just drew is the outer triangle, the big triangle, okay? Dibujé el triángulo grande. Okay, so if this is 40 degrees and it's isosceles, okay? Si esto es un triángulo isosceles, this angle equals this angle. So we got x and x. And when you add them up, they got to equal 180. So 2x plus 40 has to equal 180. La suma te tiene que dar 180. So subtract 40. And you're going to get 2x equals 140. So x equals 140 divided by 2. So x equals 70. Alright, so x equals 70. That means this angle is 70 and this angle is 70, okay? Estos dos ángulos completos son 70. Each one of these angles is 70 degrees. And what was the question? What is the measure? Okay, what is the measure of angle ADC? So, let me erase all this. So, if all of this and all of this is 70 degrees, and these are the angle bisectors, si estos son los bisectores de estos ángulos, That means each one of these angles is 35 degrees because 70 divided by 2 is 35 and 35. 35 and 35. Cada de estos ángulos tienen que medir 35 grados porque 70 dividido por 2 te da 35 y 35. So that means the smaller triangle, el triángulo más chiquito, I didn't draw it too good, but ADC. If this is 35 degrees and this one's 35 degrees, the question is, what is this one? Let me put X. Okay, tenemos que encontrar cuánto mide este ángulo. So 35 plus 35 is 70. Let me just write it out in case I lose anybody. $35 plus 35, or 35 times 2, is 70. Now just subtract 70 from 180, and you'll have your answer. X is going to equal 110. Okay, así que el ángulo que teníamos que encontrar mide 110 grados. Alright, that concludes today's lesson. Your assignment is in the student portal. It's due by 6 a.m. of the next day that you have my class. And remember, you could do it up to 10 times if you need to redo it to get a higher grade, okay? La tarea está en el portal de estudiante. Lo tienen que entregar antes de las 6 de la mañana el próximo día que tienen mi clase. Recuerden que lo pueden hacer la tarea hasta 10 veces si quieren coger un grado mejor. And hope you guys have a great day. See you guys next class. Que tengan un buen día.